Hey there, and welcome to another weekly lesson. My name is Julia Gentry, and every week you will find me here talking about the good stuff because I am a believer that if we aren't growing, we're dying. And if we aren't willing to learn the lessons that life is presenting us, then we can't grow. And so we put all that together in a nice little bow that you get every single week from me. So this week, though, it's something that I think is going to encourage you in ways that maybe some of my past videos haven't. I mean, I think we're really going to touch heaven on this one. And I'm not saying that to just sound good. I'm saying it because I believe it's going to make you good. And I believe that this lesson in overcoming is so needed right now. It's something that I have really been leaning into in my own life, and I feel like is something that is going to encourage you and take you from where you are to where you're destined to go, okay? And I'll preface that with, it has been a wild couple of weeks for me, to the point that I will admit I have been overwhelmed with this spirit of anxiety, loneliness, and mental chatter. Like such mental conflict, it's been crazy. And I will use the word overwhelmed because I think all of us admit that, right? Like we feel pings of anxiety or pings of loneliness or, that kind of mental confusion. But it has been completely overwhelming and almost debilitating in my life. And so it's caused me to lean into God even more. And I think that all of those things, right, that it either takes us closer to Him or takes us away from Him if we're not careful. But I just found myself leaning in, and I really felt like this was something I was supposed to share because I feel like there are a lot of people right now, and maybe you would admit, that are struggling with anxiety, fear, and doubt like never before. Like you've struggled with it a little bit here and there, but like right now it is large and in charge to the point that you are feeling extremely lonely because you're isolating yourself. And the mental chatter, the up and down, the here and there, you just feel like you are all over the board. And then you find yourself in this like blame, shame, guilt spiral because you're like, I should know better. Like I either read the Bible and I should know better, or I look around and my life is fine, or you look on the news and you're like, no, maybe this is verifiable. I am here to tell you today and to remind you today that you are an overcomer. You were created to be an overcomer. And so this video is going to be specifically about reminding you not only that you're an overcomer, but to remind you how to overcome. Because it's one thing to know that you're an overcomer. It's another thing to know how to do it. Okay, and so I'm going to really set the stage and help you understand, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you might be experiencing, how to overcome the fear and the doubt that is causing such mental turmoil and chaos in your being, to settle the anxiety. Okay, that's what we're going to do today. So here's the trouble with fear and doubt and anxiety and loneliness. Like here's the trouble with these things. Outside of all of us not really liking these things, the trouble with them is that just like sugar, it's addictive, right? So I hear so many people that tell me, well, but Julie, you don't understand. I think this addiction just runs in my family, right? Whether they're talking about sugar, whether they're talking about alcohol, like whatever it might be. But what you have to understand about addictions like alcohol or sugar is that it's sugar, and sugar wants more sugar, right? And so yes, I know that maybe you can identify with feeling like you're addicted to these things, but the reality is that our body, when we have too much sugar, we want more sugar, right? Like we start to kind of like need that next high. We kind of feel like in order to keep going, right, that it needs more. So it almost kind of creates this environment of this like spiral. Well, fear and doubt and worry is the same thing, okay? And so it breeds more of itself. So when you fear, that fear latches onto more fear. And when you worry, that worry latches onto more worry, and that doubt latches onto more doubt, and the loneliness latches onto more loneliness. And so the power with this is that we actually start giving our attention to the fear, the worry, and the doubt, because it starts to get louder, and it starts to get louder, and it starts to get louder. And I've said in my book, there's a couple of spots that I put this in there, is that whatever gets your attention gets your life. Okay, I'll say that again. Whatever gets your attention will get your life. Well, what that would, create the question, well, what gets our attention? Whatever is loudest. Whatever is loudest gets your attention, and whatever has your attention will get your life. And so what starts out as simple fears and simple worry and simple anxiety starts to create more of it, because I start to put my attention there. And then I keep my attention there. And then I circle my attention there. And now all of a sudden it's louder. And now I'm turning on the news or on social media or the conversations that I'm having with people. It just gets louder and louder and louder. And then I wonder why I'm afraid. I wonder why I'm in a season of doubt. I wonder why I'm no longer following my dreams. Well, it's because that's where I put my attention. And so now the only result of that is it to reflect in my life, right? This is simple worship, right? Only I'm tuned into the wrong station, right? Like worship, if you look at the definition of worship, I found this to be really interesting. It means placing your attention on someone or something. It's holding something in high esteem. So even though we're called to worship God, when we start to fear and worry and doubt about all the things going on around us, we're starting to place our attention on someone or something, and we're holding it in high esteem. Doesn't mean it's a good thing, but we've actually started to put our attention there, which means we've put our worship there, and now it's become bigger than God. The things that we worry about, no matter how big they may seem, we start to diminish who God is and who God is in us, because these things are bigger. This is what I want to remind us today. Nothing is bigger than God. Nothing is bigger than the God that is on the inside of you. And I am here to remind you of that today. I know that what might be going on in your world is gigantic. I have my stuff too. I know that what you're experiencing and what you're feeling feels bigger than God, but let this first be a reminder, it is not. However, what's happened is that worry and doubt, you've started circling that thing so long that it's gotten your attention, which is why it has your life, and you've started to worship it. Okay, this is the first problem that now is that we're putting our worship there because we're putting our attention there, and now we're worshiping the wrong things. We're worshiping other people's opinions. We're worshiping the fear. We're worshiping the doubt. We're actually putting this up on a bigger pedestal than the truth, which is why we are overwhelmed. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. This doesn't make you crazy. This makes you human, just like me, and it's actually an opportunity to step into this place of overcoming today, which is what we're going to do today. Okay, we got to turn this habitual cycle. So how do we do that? How do we overcome the fear, the worry, and the doubt when it's already become a spiral? How do we overcome the loneliness? How do we overcome this mental chaos and chatter that we feel? Here is what I have learned in these last couple of weeks. That's been true my whole life. I just forgot. Because like you, I'm human too, and so I just forgot, okay? I want to remind you of a couple things before I give you the quick answer. This is found in Mark 4. This is when Jesus stills the storm. It's Mark 4:39 in the Passion Translation, which is my favorite. It says, so they shook him awake, right after they're in the middle of the storm. They shook him awake, Jesus saying, teacher, didn't you even care that we are all about to die? Which is hysterical again. Do you think Jesus knows? Fully awake, Jesus rebuked the storm and shouted to the sea, hush, calm down. Both have exclamation. Hush, exclamation point. Calm down, exclamation point. All at once, the wind stopped howling and the water became perfectly calm. Do you know how you overcome? You get louder. You don't shrink back. You don't believe it to be true. You don't keep listening to it. You get louder than the wind. You get louder than the waves. You get louder than the fear and the worry and the doubt. You get louder. Why? Because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. You've got to get louder. Fully awake. That's why, again, I wrote this book as a wake-up call to create greater alignment. Why? To wake us up, to remind us about who we are and who God is in us. Because fully awake, Jesus rebukes the storm and shouts to the sea. He shouted to the sea. He shouted at the doubt. He shouted at the disbelief. He shouted at the fear and the worry and the anxiety. He shouted at the storm. I'm wondering today, are you shouting at the things that are in front of you? Are you shouting faith over your fear? Are you shouting hope in the most desolate of times? Are you shouting worship for God and what's possible to a dry and disappointed and fearful world? Probably not, because that's where I was. It had slowly, suddenly gotten louder and louder and louder until I couldn't hear my own voice. The mental chatter, the loneliness, the darkness had gotten so dark, so fast, that I forgot to shout. This is key. Here's what's really interesting. When you go to the bottom and it kind of breaks up what every chapter and the verses mean, this is what I thought to be so crazy. And you go, well, why? Why has it gotten so loud? It says in verse 37, it describes the gale of wind like demonic in nature, because Jesus was to confront a powerful principality on the other side of the lake, which basically means the devil knew that if Jesus crossed to the other side, he was going to do miracles. Same is true for you. You are going to do miracles. You were born to do miracles. You were born to dream, baby. Our dreams are miracles manifested on the earth, heaven to this earth. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to make the impossible possible. They're designed to take us where we've never been. They're designed to point people to God. It's designed. Miracles await you on the other side of the storm. I'm asking you, are you going to fully awake and arise and speak to the storm so you can see your miracles? The reason that the storm is getting louder and the conflict is getting louder and all of the tension is building is because you have miracles waiting for you. And so, of course, the enemy doesn't want you to get over there. Why? Because you're powerful. Because you're an overcomer, because you're going to do miracles, you're going to see miracles, you're going to be a part of it, you're going to point people to God, you're going to do amazing things in this life if you will shout at the storm. I'm such a big proponent on being still in the quiet places of God, and I believe that this helps to build, but there is a time that you are going to stand up, and I want you to do this right now. I want you to stand up, and I want you to shout louder than the doubt. Right? If you read in Zephaniah 3, it says, sing, daughter Zion, shout aloud, Israel, be glad and rejoice with all your heart, daughter Jerusalem. The Lord has taken you away from your punishment, how he has turned back your enemy. The Lord, King of Israel, is with you. Never again will you fear any harm. He is with you. That doesn't mean that everything happens perfectly. That doesn't mean that it all happens in your time and in the way that you think. God is bigger than our timing. He is bigger than situations. He is bigger than even us trying to put everything together in this perfect little puzzle piece. The reason that we shout and we celebrate and we declare is because he is with you. It says, do not fear Zion. Do not let your hands hang limp. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love, he will no longer rebuke you, but rejoice over you with singing. He rejoices over you. So here's what I'm asking. To shout. I'm asking you to get louder than the unbelief. This is one of my absolute favorite songs from Bethel. Raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. My weapon is a melody. I'm going to remind you today that the way we overcome is not to believe the fear and the doubt and the anxiety. It's not to believe it as fact. It's to hear it, but then to stand up and to be bigger and to declare the actual truth. That you are an overcomer, that God is good, that he is with you, always has been, always will be, and currently is forevermore. and to take your rightful place, which is to calm the sea. It's to be born to dream and to know that even though the wind and the waves are around you, again, this does not make something wrong with you. It makes you human, and it means that you have potential on the inside of you. And so even though the storms are crazy, and even though our world right now is just upside down and flip-flop, it tells me that it's ready for you. It's ready for me. It's ready for the dreamers who will stand up and say, no way, no how, not on my dime. And guess what I need you to do? I need you to take authority this week. I need you to tell your fear to stop. I need you to tell your doubt to cease, right? If you go on in Mark 4:40, it says that Jesus turns to the disciples and he says to them, why are you so afraid? Haven't you learned to trust me yet? Haven't you learned to trust yet? Some of you are like, no. Fair, I had to look at that this week too. No. Haven't I learned to trust yet? Obviously not. That's where it starts. That's where it starts. That's why a couple weeks ago I did a video on trust, because yes, I know that trust is hard, but if we don't abide in trust in a bigger picture, man, this makes this more challenging. That's basically what Jesus was saying. They were overwhelmed with fear. Well, overwhelmed with fear is because I was listening to it long enough, turned up the volume on it, and then continued the cycle. I'm asking you to break the cycle. Break it. I'm asking you to break the cycle right now, today, this week, and do not stop until your worship and belief in God and in your dreams and in where you're going and the impossible being possible. I'm asking you not to stop until you see it. I'm asking you not to go to the right or to the left. I'm asking you not to bow your knee. I'm asking you to move forward and to believe. That's what I'm asking you this week. And I stand before you today being and feeling just as weak as you might feel in this. You may think that these videos and YouTube, that I've got it and I feel this strong strength all the time. I don't. Let me be the first to you. This is every single night this week. I went to bed crying and I woke up each morning battling the same thing until I realized that God was letting me feel not only what I was feeling, but the sense of this overarching of what many people have been feeling. Why? Because I believe that he then gave me this message of overcoming so I could help us all get through this. So do not diminish who you are. Or if this is possible for you, I'm asking you just to believe, and I'm asking you to break the cycle and to overcome by shouting, overcome by praising and getting loud. Hush, exclamation point. Calm down, exclamation point. Right? Zephaniah, sing, shout aloud. Oh, daughters and sons, shout this week. Do not let the things around you diminish the things that God's put within you. Remind yourself this week of who you are. Remind yourself this week of who God is. And watch as the impossible does become possible, not because everything's perfect and in our timing, but because we simply shouted at the storm and it calmed. My friends, I bless you in this week. I am with you. I will be sending so many prayers. Please make sure in the comments below if you have specific prayers or things that are going on. I am happy to pray over them, because it is time for you to step into being an overcomer. This is your lesson in overcoming. Get loud, dream real, live big, be bold, and get loud. Oh, of course, don't forget, please subscribe and share this video with one more person who needs this lesson in overcoming, because we need more people who are loud about the things that matter most. And join our weekly text messages by texting DREAM NOW, all capital letters, to 22999. We'll see you next week.